On the big story this morning, I speak to Seezi Cheeye. He got out of jail on 3rd March, not too long ago. He had been sentenced to 10 years in prison for his involvement in what court convicted him of actually was embezzling of money and forging accountability for this money, 120 million shillings. This morning we speak to him, life in prison, and what his plans are going forward. Seezi Cheeye, it's good to have you here. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
You went to jail in 2010 and
yes.
You got out 3rd March. That's about what, 7 years, give or take?
About 6 and 8 months.
About 6 years, 8 months.
Mm.
What has that been like for you? What have those 6 years, 8 months been like for you?
Well, there have been years of reflection. Where we came from, why me, why here? It was a very long period of reflection. Because normally when you are in a situation like the position I was in, you are a very busy person. You never have time to reflect. So I had time to reflect where we came from as a movement, what went wrong, and why things like this were happening to me. But above all, I took time off to read the Bible 2 times, to read the books, some of the books I had bought, which I had not read, and I even got more books. So, as Mandela said, being in prison does not necessarily mean you are cut off from the global flow of information. So I was well informed. I used the time to read. So, by and large, my stay in prison was years of learning and reflection.
You talk about where we came from and so on and so forth, the movement. The time that you wrote The Confidential, a hard-hitting paper towards government and government officials revealing interesting secrets, some would think, loathed the government, you hit hard at it, and after a while you joined them. Why? What drew you to this government that you hit at so hard?
Well, first of all, as I have said before, I was 21 years when Museveni appeared on the scenery in 1979. So we got hooked to this brand of a new biblical Moses. We thought he meant well, and we joined. We were hoodwinked. The whole generation. We became a generation of Chibuetere. So when I started the Uganda Confidential, I tried to fight corruption because in my view, I think I've said it before, that corruption is like cancer. If you detect it early, and this was something that was also written about by Museveni, Nicol, in 1513. He used, but I have crafted it into cancer because he used the disease which was then known in Europe. But I have crafted it around the cancer. It is the same meaning. Cancer, if detected early, it is easy to treat. But once it becomes obvious and everybody says it is cancer, then it becomes difficult to treat. The same thing with the corruption. If Museveni had given me support at that time when I was fighting corruption, when it was still small, we would have cured corruption, like Rwanda and other countries. But he was not interested. And now corruption is visible. It is the total blood of the movement. Any attempt to stop corruption, you are clotting the blood flow of the movement.
We'll talk a little bit more about this corruption issue, but I was asking about the transition. You embraced them, and then you clearly took a different path, and then you rejoined them. You worked as Director in charge of economic monitoring in the President's office.
First of all, I must apologize. And this is the problem the people like Seezi Cheeye and others are having, and even in Babazi. They don't seem to apologize to Ugandans that we were hoodwinked. Me, I want to tell Ugandans that our generation was hoodwinked by Museveni. We believed in him. So when I fought corruption and I reached a certain stage and said, why don't you come? Because I used to give him advice. So one time when I was with him in State House in 1996, I told him a problem of corruption. He said, how can we fight corruption? I told him, you have to create an economic monitoring unit so that the money which is borrowed, which is invested, they get value for money. He created the Ministry of Economic Monitoring. I was supposed to be the one, but some politician hijacked that job and my own proposal, and they made a Minister of Monitoring, Sida Bumba. Then in 2000, when again we were going to elections, he needed the media support because it is the Uganda Confidential which gave him political support in 1996. There were no other papers. And then in 2000. So in 2000, again, when he was competing with the Besigye, I went to State House and he said, you know, so the Uganda Confidential gave him political support. But I told him, I said, now you have called me to help you in these elections. You will forget me, again as you forgot me in 1996. Then he said, okay, you come in and we fight corruption together. So I believed that from the inside, I would have a better position of actually having access to the real documentation and the way of fighting corruption from within. I did a lot. But as I said, I was hoodwinked. He didn't mean it. So blindly I stepped on toes of many people closer to him. And that's when this came. At one time I asked him in a good, but I said, look, I'm stepping on so many toes. Now I've written a dozen to Mukunde, but is your rate is related to your wife? Don't you think I'm injuring myself? He said, no, don't worry. But my dear, he was hoodwinking me.
You talk about being hoodwinked by the president. It happened several times because, as you say, he would hoodwink you and then you extricate yourself from him, but then you would go back to him and then he would hoodwink you. I'm thinking, why? Why did you allow this to happen? You kept going back to him, not once.
Yeah, but you see, as the president, at the beginning we had a lot of hope because the rhetorics were very appealing. Rhetorics against sectarianism, rhetorics against this, rhetorics about imperialism, they were very appealing, were very good brands. So it was very difficult to see the hoodwink. But maybe I will say something because you seem to we want to find out the really why we people keep going back. Like
because
now,
you see, if you're disappointed in him, he hoodwinks you. But you keep running back to him, he recruits you in his government.
Now,
then you run, then you go back to him.
Now let me.
It's a question of bread and butter, sir.
No. Let me tell you. And this I'm speaking for my behalf, and I would also probably speak on behalf of Mbabazi or even Tenyefons. I have not talked to them. You see, when I was getting into problems, I went to Mbabazi and told him, Mbabazi, you are the Minister of Security, but the President is sacrificing me. Why? I wanted to talk to him to explain. He is not picking my phone. He is not seeing me. Mbabazi told me, the President I know cannot lie, cannot betray you. But eventually along the way. But then the answer to what you are trying to find out, why do we go back? Why do we insist being near him? You see, the example I would like to give you is that of marriage. If you have a girlfriend or a wife, if one misbehaves, one party misbehaves, you want to sit down and get to the matter and the parents come in so that you separate properly or you reconcile properly. Now, Mr. Museveni never allows that opportunity to happen. When he knows that there are issues you want to say, because I had written to him many times, I want to talk to you like we are talking now. I said, but you have gone this, you have done this, and this is what I thought, I think maybe we part. But he never gives you that opportunity. So you, in this case, you keep hoping that one day, once I sit with him and solve this thing, I'll get out or we'll get reconciled. But he never gives you. So in my case, it was an opportunity that I got into this problem. He didn't come in, so it clearly showed me that he's a man that hoodwinks and who doesn't care about people.
You talk about being framed, having been framed, and you still assert that to date.
I was not framed. It's not that way. The truth of the matter is that I got the money from the Global Fund, the 120 million, to spend on a promise which Mr. Museveni made it to me.
So did you spend the money on that promise?
Yes, I spent. It was not even enough. Now, I had hoped that he would make a good of it. He didn't make a good of it. So what happened, since I had signed a contract with the Global Fund, I borrowed the money from Crane Bank. I put the land title and I got money. And I did the work properly. Eventually, when this matter was brought...
Let me just be sure we are together. So you got the 120 billion from Global Fund,
and they used it on this pledge, sort of.
On the?
On the pledge of the president.
Not for Global Fund activity?
Not for Global Fund activity.
So in other words, you misappropriated the money.
Now listen, it is just a technical thing. It's like borrow, I owe you. Now what happened?
But this is government money we are talking about.
That's true. That's where I made a mistake. I was foolish on that. But what I did, because I'm not corrupt by blood, I went to the bank and I borrowed the money because Mr. Museveni's money did not come. And I did the work of Global Fund. That's the difference. I did the actual contract very well. Eventually, when in 2005, someone in the monitor reported that Mr. Museveni had used the money of Global Fund to finance the term limit, to remove of term limit. Donors got concerned, how can you use our money? So he said, go in and find out. They found nothing. They found that he had not used the money to buy the term limit, to lift the term limit. Then they said, but we have found the Cheeyes and others, the Kenyans and others. So they zeroed on us. But when they zeroed that, then it resulted in the Justice Ogola Commission report. Justice Ogola interviewed me. He found that actually the work was done. The only money which he found unaccounted for was only 241,000. And they wrote to me, and you must know that the Justice Ogola Commission was of high people, many people of high integrity. There was Andrew Kasirye, there was Philip Karogaba, and many others, very highly placed people. Emmanuel Tumusiime was on it, although he would have used that position to fight me because I had exposed him, but he was on it nevertheless. But the commission found me innocent because the work had been done.
When you say use this other money for to fulfill a presidential pledge, what pledge was that?
No, now the issue of the pledge is different. I will not discuss what the president's pledge was, but I'm telling you, he made a pledge.
Which you fulfilled using the Global Fund money?
Yes. Now, I borrow from a bank, Crane Bank, to do the work. Why did I borrow? First of all, I didn't want it to have an image that would be tarnished that I got money and I didn't do work. Secondly, I thought that was an opportunity to build a consultancy that would even get more money to do work. I would create a job. I'm an economist. I could do much work. I could do a lot of work. So I borrowed money from Crane to do this work properly. And I did it.
Help me understand, sir. Because you clearly are angry with certain people because you feel that because you stepped on toes and so on, you got into this situation.
And that's exactly what happened.
But you see, and like you have rightly admitted, you made a mistake because if you are given 120 million Global Fund money to do Global Fund work, and you did not do that work, use the money to fulfill a presidential pledge, which you don't want to talk about, that alone in itself, I would think, and I'm really not trying to shove it down your throat, but I think that alone is culpability. You would say, look, I made a mistake and I take full responsibility. But you seem to put the blame on other people, and yet you made the mistake yourself.
No, I made the mistake, a stupid mistake. But the mistake was not brewed in corruption. That's what I want to tell people. Because why would I borrow money from Crane Bank to do the job? And do you think Ogola is stupid to have let me off? Why didn't he recommend that I should be prosecuted? Why didn't he recommend that I should refund all the 120 million?
Wouldn't we say the same of several of these other government officials that are given money to do agricultural work, if it's agriculture ministry, and so on and so forth, and they use that money for other activities, be they personal or other things like the one you don't want to talk about, and then they're caught in their tracks before they can borrow money from elsewhere and use it.
I was not caught anywhere. Nobody forced me to go to borrow money to do this job. That's the spiritual calling. I had to do the work. And that's why Ogola Commission found me innocent. In common sense. I don't want you to say that the Ogola Commission was full of people who did not know what they were doing. You had Andrew Kasirye on it. You had Philip Karogaba on it. You had Emmanuel Tumusiime on it. Surely. And that commission was not friendly. I had even actually, Tumusiime was to have used the conflict of interest to fight me. But we brought all the documents. The work was done. The only problem is in the legality and the technicality which Katusi used. And I will also tell you that when I was the nature of the work of the Global Fund was actually to do kind of monitoring, to find out if the NGO so and so was supposed to hold a conference here, it did this, a workshop here, it did this. So it was more of an underground investigation. You understand? So when I got the money from Krenba, I sent people to these fields to find out whether this thing is being done. And that's what we did. And that's why the original people who gave us the contract in the Global Fund people, our client, did not complain. The client did not complain. Please note that. The client to whom we signed the contract, who gave us 120 million, was not the one which complained.
So when caught among the other things...
Do you get that point?
I'm hearing you. I hear
the client did not complain. Even when they instituted the Commission of Inquiry, the Global Commission did not find me in a wrong. It is only Katusi, with the political manipulation of other people, and we can come to that point later, who found a reason to put him in prison. And he asked me to refund all the money.
So the charges of embezzling the money, forging accountability for it, one interesting one was that you used the Caterpillar loader to transport people. You know, one that uses diesel, but according to accountability, it used petrol and so on. So were all these trumped up according to you?
Okay, let me explain something about that. You are a manager here. Suppose...
Well, not yet.
Okay. Maybe you are
I'm a staff member.
Maybe you are... Okay, let's take it to a family level. Suppose you are in your house and you want to go and buy bread. You want to have bread for your breakfast. You send a person, take this money, go and buy bread. He goes and brings bread. And then you have your breakfast. So in my case, I would send somebody, go to this place, find out if this activity is taking place. But underground. Yeah? Then he comes back and says, this is actually what we found out. We write our pay. That's our breakfast. Now, Katusi's judgment was based that Cheeye did not go there himself. And even the person who came there did not tell the community that I am from Uganda Center for Accountability, I'm investigating this, I want to find out if you have done that. We didn't do that. So when he went to the ground and brought people from those places to say, did you see Cheeye in Kasese? Say, no, we never saw him. Did anybody come and say, well, this is Uganda Center for Accountability doing this? Said, no, we don't know. So Katusi concluded, we did not go there, we did not do work. That's why when he came to defense in court, I said, do what you want. Because it was stupid. He didn't want to find out whether...
What was stupid? The judge, his ruling.
The way he didn't find out whether the work was done. He was just finding out if you sent so and so to bring you bread, and if you didn't go there yourself, the one who bought bread did not go to the shop and say, I'm coming from Mr. Cheeye, I have come for bread and we are going to have breakfast. So when he goes to this shopkeeper, tell me, did Mr. Cheeye come to buy bread? He said no. Did he send anybody to come buy bread and tell no. So the conclusion is that he didn't come here.
Mr. Cheeye, aren't you being unfair to the judge because you appealed and a panel of judges at the Court of Appeal
another thing.
Upheld his ruling.
That's
so
another thing.
When you be hard on this judge and say it was unfair to you, are you saying the same at the level?
No, we go politic. We go. Now that's where my historical contribution to journalism made me pay a price.
So you're saying the judges ruled to hit you hard because of your...
Because I had stabbed their chief justice. The judges, I curtail, and it's like a cult. You hurt one, they are all hurt.
Mr. Cheeye, on the one hand, you acknowledge and admit that you made a mistake. In
Yes.
your own words, you've called it a stupid mistake a
Yes.
few minutes ago.
But
then on the other hand, you say you were hounded unfairly.
And now, if
I would like to think, for moving on, Papa, now that you agree you made a mistake...
If this mistake was done by a person without having some kind of liabilities, social liabilities, who have not, I would have been probably asked to pay the money. And I paid the money. Or I would be given 3 years. But 10 years, and they pay back the money, double jeopardy.
No, but the law allows for that.
Yes, but
imprisonment and or a fine.
Yeah, but
so it can be one or the other or both.
You know, in the Bible there is a verse which says God will hand you your enemy to do whatever you want with him. this happened. Katusi had me. He did what he wanted. He was my enemy, being used, and that's okay. And it was God's plan. So chapter closed.
Chapter closed. I don't know if it is. I understand you got saved from prison.
Chapter closed.
Is that so?
Yes, I got born again.
Everybody that goes to prison, most of them, they come out acknowledging Christ, saying they are born again. And we keep thinking, is it true, or is it prison has battered them so hard?
No. For me, it was not because the prison had battered me. I never got battered. I was received well, respectively, because of my age and the job I had been doing. I was given a room where I painted. I put there a small library, started reading, because the life in prison is the continuation of the life you have been leading outside. If one was a thief, a drunkard, somebody he continues in the prison. But when I entered, the officer in charge of that prison, Wilson Magomo, I went to see. He said, you know, when you come to prison, you continue with your life. If one is a thief, he continues the thief. If you are an academic, you can continue with your life of academic. So I realized that. Then I made an environment that enabled me to read and write.
Now that you are saved, wouldn't it be a good thing to forgive those that you think hurt you unfairly? You talked about justice, but you still speak bitterly about him today.
No,
I would think it's a good thing that you forgive them because you feel they wronged you.
Absolutely, I have said that they did it because they were doing God's bidding. I've said this many times. I have forgiven them because they were not.
Have you?
Yes. If in fact I said I want to.
You're still bitter about it.
No, they were being used. You know, like Judas. Judas, the one who betrayed Jesus. He was used. If he had not betrayed Jesus, how would Jesus be hanged? How would the CID find Jesus?
So tell me, now that you're out of jail, what's your next plan? What are you going to do?
My next plan is, of course, to continue to pick the battle of fighting ignorance. Ignorance has eaten too much in our society. Ignorance on the part of the leadership, specifically Museveni's own ignorance. Very, very ignorant on economics.
And yet you were his advisor.
I gave him a lot of advice.
You're in charge, head of economic monitoring.
He would take a bit. He would take a bit.
Probably his advisors sometimes the problem. You were head of economic monitoring in the president's office.
I advised him. I have
a
heap of his responses telling me this, and whatever I told him about that time has come out to be true.
So how are you going to help that which you talk about as his ignorance? Are you going to get to him and advise him? How are you going to do this?
I'm not going to advise him. I'm going to bring out a magazine that has answers to this. So if he's interested, he can pick the answers from the publication. I'm addressing the problem to the nation, not only Uganda, but Africa as a whole. Because the problem we have in Africa, in Uganda, economic problem, are the same. The problem of high interest rate. I can give a formula that brings interest rate to as low as 2%. Why do you think other countries, Singapore, South Korea, and America, why? Is it a miracle? It's knowledge. They don't have this knowledge. Mr. Museveni, the other people have the zeal, but they lack the knowledge. And I repeat it, because in the Bible it is written, in Proverbs 19:2, that it's wrong to have zeal without knowledge. These people have zeal, they don't have the knowledge. So I will provide the knowledge in the publication.
Where do you think President Museveni has scored best in the last 31 years that he's been at the helm of this country's leadership?
I don't know what you call scoring best. You have to explain to me. But from the
where do you think you saw him come to power, the promises he made, and the things he has done? What do you think he has done well?
I don't know whether there is anything that has been done. If you look it through the lenses of economics, maybe from others. But I will tell you, in economics you have got fundamental indicators of the body of economics. The things you would say, the eyes, the nose, the ears, the things, the mouth, the things that they are fundamental keys, the heart. Yeah? So in economics there are these indicators. So if they are wrong, the body is wrong. It may appear to be good, but it's sick. And I will tell you straight away. Key point number one is the level of interest rate. Once the interest rate is above GDP growth, it is rubbish. The economy is rubbish. It has to be below the GDP growth. Second indicator is the employment. In America, the central banks of America, the European Central Bank, which are managed by people with a higher a higher level of intellectual capacity in terms of economics, they focus on employment. Any unemployment that is going to 10% disaster. They keep it below 5, 4, so that the population has purchasing power. Yeah? But
so you talk about a formula, that you have a formula which can ameliorate.
No.
What should we do as a country?
I'm just giving you these. There are not many. Just be patient. The third one is the exchange rate. It must be stable, because if you borrow $1 million and you build a station or an investment, you have borrowed it at when the rate is 2,000. Then in next year it is 3,000. You go down. You understand? So the level of exchange rate must be stable. The level of price. When you bought meat in 1988, a kilo of meat was 440. Now it's 10,000. If you had 10,000 in 1988, you would buy over 18 kilograms of meat. Now you buy one. The price, the stability of price. You understand? So all these, there are many, but I don't want to. So once these economic indicators are not working, then the economy is sick.
Let's be practical here, Mr. Cheeye. It's easy, of course, to point these out. They are glaring. Everybody can see them. But what are the remedies? What should be done?
The remedies are there.
Which ones are those?
I've written a book on that. I've pointed out the falsehoods of these economists, about 8 of them, and the remedies. I've also pointed out the falsehoods of politics, democracy, and the philosopher. About 10 chapters. Each one has a remedy. But I don't know whether you have the time for the remedies.
Well, in about 2 minutes, if the president was watching, for example, and you have this magic bullet of sorts, because you're very concerned about the economy.
Yes.
And rightly so, because it's hurting all of us.
Yes.
What are those buttons you should touch and press so that things begin to work? You talk about interest rates, for example. How can we remedy that? The skyrocketing prices and so on.
You know, I can give you the remedies, but it is a long remedy. But I can be brief, point by point, since you insist. Now, on the interest rate, there is one formula. You see, the cost of money goes up because the money is scarce. It's a simple economics. If something is scarce, the price goes up. So the remedy number one, how to solve this, is to make the money available for domestic credit abundant, available. Therefore, the money available for domestic credit in Uganda, Rwanda is just 90% of the GDP. In other countries, it's over 200%. In the US, in Japan, it's about 300%. So there is adequate liquidity in the system to help borrow. That's level number one. The second, but that's the main key. Once you don't have enough liquidity in the system, then the interest rate will go up. But that liquidity, to manage that liquidity so that you don't create inflation, is another issue. That's when I discuss the inflation, also the prices. But that's point number one. So there is no liquidity in the system. People are saying NSSF has this much, but that's nothing. It's about $200, $300 million. That's nothing. You can't even build the standard gauge. And that's the problem. So we have to address the question of liquidity. And how do you address the problem of liquidity? You have to create money. Other countries create money. They print. Now in America, they don't even print. They have put money on airtime. You have to have credit cards. So
you're saying we should print money and make it as available?
In fact,
like Amin did back then?
No. You see, you know, when you reason that like Amin, like Mugabe, it is like saying if you make a car, it will cause accidents.
So are you saying we should print a lot more money so we can have it available?
You should print a lot of money and make it available. But there is a mechanism also which controls inflation. That's where I discuss the chapter of inflation. How do you solve the problem of inflation? The problem of inflation as a basic economics is that too much money chasing few goods. So, and that's what these people are insisting. So the Museveni, in order to fight inflation, he takes away money from the circulation so that people are poor. In other words, to save on rent, you go and sleep on the street. So he says, tighten your belt, you get out the money, so that poverty is an indicator of economic management. That's not correct. The correct way is that you print money and answer all the national obligations. First section goes to production. People produce the infrastructure. Another big portion goes to consumers, the industrial population, the people who work. So that you have got two segments. You release you release 10 trillion to the producers, 10 trillion to the earners. That's what China did. It separated the producers in the farms, and they created the consumers in the town. In fact, the people who were producing in the villages were not allowed even to come to town. You need to have a permit. So, but when they did that, they got 100 million consumers instant.
Away from the economics, and let's wrap it up this way. Clearly, you indicate Uganda has an economic challenge, and most of us do agree. Do you think Uganda has a political challenge in any way?
Yes, the big political challenge is really the removal of the term limit. I wish Mr. Museveni can now use this chance and get off the scene. Because the term limit is important in that it limits misuse of power. It limits sharing, this mentality of sharing school land, the national forest, everything. So term limit limits that. So but away from that, when the politics is sick, when the people in power don't have they don't have the knowledge to manage the society, then they become repetitive, and that's terrible. You see, in science or even in economics, something is not repeated twice. You cannot go to a doctor and they check a pregnancy, and then you have to go back and they confirm it is a pregnancy. Once it is confirmed it is pregnancy, it's pregnancy. Once the doctor finds it's malaria, it's malaria. If it is not there, he doesn't repeat it. Yeah?
No, but they can for confirmatory purposes.
Yeah, okay, but not this kind of moving from Bonaba Gagawale to wealth creation to whatever, poverty alleviation. It's not that type. That is unscientific. If you are sure of the way, just one experiment is enough. So this is the result of overstaying. You are trying to touch this button. You are in the forest. You are looking for a way out.
Mr. Teddy Seezi Cheeye, it's been a pleasure talking to you this morning.
So politics is wrong, and it is also affecting economics. And I will shed more light on that in the economy in my Uganda Confidential. It is a heavy dose next week. It will answer all of this, and that's what it is going to fulfill. We are not only lamenting, but we give solutions.
All right, we are looking forward to that. Thank you for talking to us this morning. Totally appreciate it.